If a fundamental piece of student engagement is about giving students an opportunity to be heard, then writing workshop is a natural fit. As a teacher, I've known that giving students authentic opportunities to speak, write, and be heard is crucial. Last year was my first year teaching at Sir Robert Borden, and it was my first experience with the What'd You Do in School Today survey. What I found was that What'd You Do in School Today affected the school culture. Because kids were accustomed to being asked to think and talk about their learning and their needs, and because they had experience being heard, I found that my job was made a bit easier. I can't speak for the students, and as you are beginning to see, they're really good at doing that for themselves. But I do think that partly through the experience of What'd You Do in School Today, students believed that their opinions, experiences, and unique knowledge were valued. Some of the barriers that can be involved in a writing workshop were removed because of that. I don't have to tell you that intellectual engagement is both elusive yet critical component to student engagement. When students are given opportunities to learn and ask questions about topics that are connected to their own lives, when they are given the time needed to explore those topics and problem solve through their writing, then they are much more likely to be both emotionally and cognitively invested in their writing and their learning. I had read Tom Romano's book, Blending Genre, Altering Style, A Guide to Writing Multi-Genre Research Papers, the year before I started at Borden, and I couldn't get it out of my head. I was struck by the notion of students taking up a theme or a topic, researching it, and then writing about it through multiple genres. As we know, a poem can say things that an essay never can, but an essay and a poem together can really come together in a really kind of special way. The idea behind multi-genre papers is that each piece of writing comes together to tell a story. So I wanted to try this type of long-term connected writing in my classroom, and because of the culture that I found when I arrived at Borden, I decided to take a big risk and try it with my grade 9 writers. For me, the risks involved in this kind of process were mainly around timing. I had to commit to letting go of about 5 months of planning. I had to let it go to the students. Students were given an opportunity to identify areas of interest or questions that they wanted to find answers to. This is where the research started. After each student chose a topic, and that was a really difficult process in itself, they began to research. We spent a lot of time researching, and I began to worry that we were spending too much time researching. But when in a conference with students, I found that for the most part, they were really engaged in that research process. So for the next 3 months or so, my reading and writing workshops revolved around where the writers were. One requirement was that each student had to write a persuasive essay, so planning for that was really straightforward. But once the students started to find the path in their writing, my planning had to get more targeted. Some students wanted to write book reviews, so that told me what to plan for the next mini lesson. I also found that it was possible to group students together based on where they were and provide explicit instruction to small groups of students while the other writers were working more independently on their work. The multi-genre project worked. It took a long time, but that makes sense. Writing is a process, and so is discovery. Students wrote essays, poetry, nonfiction texts like book reviews and film reviews, recipes, feature articles, interviews. They wrote fiction texts like short stories and monologue. I can't begin to tell you how exciting it was to read those finished projects. One of the things we hear from students through What'd You Do in School Today is that they wish they could learn about topics of their own choosing. The multi-genre research project gave my grade 9 students that opportunity, and it also gave me an opportunity to try something that looked good on paper and now I know really does work.